I'd like to take just a few minutes to talk about the partnership that has brought this workshop to Ohio University a year after we held our first symposium on youth sport in Africa. It's a partnership that found a natural home together. The Department of African Studies, the Institute for the African Child, and the Sports Administration Program. I think we've seen, and we'll see during the next day and a half of the workshop, how sport across disciplines can influence the lives of children and the lives of people, particularly the lives of people in Africa. It is certainly, it's been an important part of our work, and I hope will become a more important part of our work, and of Ohio University's work, to recognize the link that sports holds for so much of society and so much of culture. And I believe the workshops that are in front of you for the next, for this afternoon and for tomorrow will do a great deal to open your eyes and to develop in us the creative process to see how we can have an influence and share in the development of the lives of young people on that continent through sport. I looked at this address, and I cannot tell you how amazed I am not only to be in the same room with our featured speaker, but to actually stand in the same place where he's going to stand. And to tell students that you will understand what I say in times to come, how quickly current events become history. I remember the impact that our speaker had on the thought process of young people in this country and around the world 37 years ago, and what's developed during the intervening decades, and how much we've achieved, but also how much we have left to achieve. So Dr. Najee Mohammed will introduce him, but I want to say that I'm extremely honored that Lee Evans is here to speak to us, and I think that you all will understand why after you've heard him talk. So without taking up too much more of your time, again, I want to welcome all of you. I hope you will be active participants in this workshop. There's a great deal to be done, and this is a great forum to start it. Next, I would like to introduce the person who will introduce Lee Evans from our own faculty and Cultural Studies Department of College of Education, Dr. Najee Mohammed. Dr. Mohammed, thank you.
Well, I've been instructed by my esteemed colleagues, as many people know me, I have a tendency to be rather long-winded, if you believe that or not. At least some of my students already know that. So I've been instructed by some of my colleagues that I need to keep my comments short, that is, under 30 minutes. So obviously I cannot do that. But just let me quickly say, because one of the things when you're dealing with somebody from history, is the best way to know about them is not for you to talk about them, but really for them to talk about their story, their narrative. Let them speak in their voice. And early when I talked to Mr. Evans, I said, well, what is it you want me to say about you, brother? And he said, well, just keep it short. It sort of reminded me of Malcolm X. When Malcolm was introduced, Malcolm used to always say, just make it plain. And so he said, just make it plain, and just mention that, I ran the Olympics in '68, and that I have, set the world record in the 400 meters, which stood for 20 years. What was it, 44.8? 43? I'm sorry. You did run 44 flat in the trials, is that correct? There you go. Okay, so if for those of you who've ever run track, and if you've ever run the 400 meters, the 400 meters is like the basis for a half mile, marathon, to run that fast is just absolutely incredible. It's absolutely incredible. This man ran with a strength and a viciousness. He attacked the track. He attacked the 400 meters in a time when he and two other brothers were attacking the system of racism in the United States. The 68 is very powerful. For those of you young students who don't know anything about historical context, you need to understand that you're in the presence of a giant. 68 was powerful. 3 years after Malcolm. King in April of '68. Robert Kennedy in June of '68. '68 was a time of Nam. It was a time of poverty. It was a time of apathy, death, and disease. And these brothers, in particular this man here, decided to attack the system, to stand up against a racist Olympic system that tried their best to suppress them. 2 of his colleagues were thrown out, banned from the Olympics for life. He runs the next day, stands up on the podium with 2 other brothers. They wear black berets, thinking, scared half to death because he'd gotten death threats, and they told him they'd shoot him and what time they would. You know? So you need to listen to what it is he has to say, and if we want to have him back here. That's number 1. We need to invite him back here to have him tell another part of the story. And with that said, without me going on any further, I want to welcome, and extremely an honor. You don't know historically, because I come out of that period, that revolutionary period. It is my esteemed honor to welcome to you and present to you Mr. Lee Evans. Evans speaks on behalf of the African Sports Across Disciplines Workshop. We want to present him with a token of our appreciation for coming to Ohio University and sharing with us his revolutionary and educational experience, and just so when he leaves here, he has something to remember us by. Mr. Evans, there you go. Thank you very much.
Thank Najee for that great introduction. Okay, our coach Bud Winters was known to be the greatest strength coach at the time. We called Speed City. That's what they called San Jose, Speed City, because of all the sprinters that were there. And most of the athletes went there because of the reputation of Bud Winters as being a great sprint coach. And we did not lift weights. We did push-ups and sit-ups and pull-ups, from the bar. That's mainly what we did. But he worked on technique, good technique, and relaxation. If you watch Tommy Smith run, Tommy ran very relaxed. Even though it looked like I struggled when I ran, but I was very relaxed. If you looked at even my wrist or my hands, they were very relaxed. Relaxation was the key. And he taught us a lot about focusing on the objective, and being to visualize your success. Yeah.
Was there ever a time that you doubted yourself? Was there ever a time that you doubted yourself?
Well, anytime you go to the starting line, there's some doubts going to come in your mind. Anytime, that's how it is in sports or in track and field. The mind never stops working. That's why I was, just morning I gave a speech at a high school, and I'm telling them about how to try to think about one thing. Let's think about your objective, and you have visualized your success, and you've seen your success, and just go do that one thing. But your mind is like a computer. It always has something else going way in the back of the corner. Well, I don't know. I don't know if you can do this. These are doubts. You always have to kick them. You kick them out with, I worked hard. I got the best coach in the world. I would always kick these doubts out with something positive. I would match the doubt with some preparation that I had made. And that was very important. So if you worked hard, you believe in your coach, and this is what I teach first thing I tell a new athlete of mine, your first rule, you have to think that I'm the best coach in the world. Why? Because that's the confidence you're going to take to the starting line. If you think you have the best professor in the world, and you have to go give a debate somewhere, and you believe that you've been taught by the best professor, you're going to walk into that debate with confidence. Same way in a competition. You have to believe in your coach. So I tell them, I said, you must think that I'm the best coach in the world, because that's the confidence you will take to the starting line. Because when you get to the Olympic final, everyone has trained. Physically, you are ready to compete. Not just you, but there's 8 lanes. There's 7 other people who are prepared physically as well. Now, who's going to win? It's not going to be the guy who's not always the fastest, not the strongest, but it's the one who has it here, who wants it the most. How bad do you want it? And I always felt like I wanted it more. I would make myself want it more than the other guy. I felt that I was better prepared mentally. I had did my visualization. The day of a meet, the day of a competition, or when I wanted to break a world record. Let's say I want to break a world record on Saturday. By Wednesday, I would do 2 hours of visualization. It means I would see myself from my hotel room through the celebration after winning the race. It would take me maybe 15 minutes to run the race. Get from my hotel to the celebration after running the race, run the race, every step of the race. I would see this for 15 minutes, then I would take a 2 or 3 minute break, and I would do it again. I would do 2 hours by Wednesday. Thursday, I would do it maybe 4 hours. Friday, I would do it maybe 8 hours. Saturday, that's all I did. Only time I would go down to eat breakfast or eat lunch, I walk around the block and go back to my hotel room and continue this visualization. When they shot the gun in the race, I don't never remember touching the ground. I always felt like I was running about this high off the ground. All this is mental preparation. Okay? Physically, if a guy some people was faster than me, but they couldn't beat me because I have seen myself win this race and I'm going to win it. And you can apply this in anything you want to do, not just in sports.
I'm from San Jose State, so thank you.
I went to San Jose State.
I'm very happy to hear about all the old stories. When you were in Nigeria, in Botswana and Malawi, and you said your challenge was to get the coaches to show up every day.
Well, they had other issues. They had a family, trying to get food on the table. I know they had issues that they had to deal with. But I try to get over to them to be successful in your sport. You have to be as dedicated as the athlete, because you're the leader. They're gonna follow your example. So you get them to be there every day and to get down on their hands and knees and just say, "This is how you start."
Was that your biggest challenge?
When it came to teaching the coaches, yes, it was. Because I found that many of them they wanted to be the administrator up in the building, looking down on the track, instead of being down on the track doing the work itself. Whereas a foreigner like myself, I didn't mind being down on my hands and knees and showing them how to do that. Because I love doing that. But then I was able to get some Nigerian coaches to be just like me. I remember one time, first time I had malaria. God, that was horrible. One of my students' name was Paul Wadibi. And Paul became an excellent coach, but this guy was so smart. I made him go to come to university in the U.S. I was sitting in a chair. I said, Paul, take the athletes through the sprint technique drills, and then this is a workout for them. I couldn't even stand up. I wanted to sit there and watch him. He stood in front of these athletes, and it was like it was me. He quoted me word for word, even my mannerism, everything. My jaw just dropped. This guy, he did everything I would do, even the way I moved, the way I talked. I said, Paul, come over here. I said, how did you? He said, Coach, you've been coaching me every day for 6 months, so I know what. Yeah, but you know I did. He walked and moved the way I did. And I thought, this guy's very bright. Have you thought about going to school in the U.S.? So I helped him to come to school in the U.S., and now he's a doctor he's a doctor in some university in Florida now. What is he? He's teaching economics. He's a really smart guy. I know he was, and after he was... And I had another student, his name was Taiwo Ogunjubi, who was very bright as well. I mean, you had Taiwo, I remember I gave an exam in my class. And this guy, he answered every question the same way that I would answer the question. Word for word. I said, Taiwo, God, I've never seen this before happen in my life. So I gave him 100%, and then, but the director of the institute said, oh, you can't give him 100%. I said, yes, but, but That's how it was. We really meet some really bright people. Someone had a question? Yes.
Yeah, you talked about mental preparation as one of the most important factors.
Oh, yes.
What role do you think drugs play in performance? That's the first part of the question.
Yes,
The second part is when you were an athlete, I mean, 40 years ago, 30 years ago or so, was there any talk or any practice of drugs? And what do you think about the scandals that are happening today about drugs?
First of all, these scandals, these drug-taking scandals are embarrassing for me because I'll take Miriam Jones, for example. Miriam Jones ran 11:16 for 100 meters when she was in high school. Very talented woman. She doesn't need to take drugs. But people will start to take performance-enhancing drugs to cut corners. If you work hard, there's no need to take drugs if you're as talented as she is. And so far, it has not been proved that she's taking any drugs anyway. But the first part of the question is what I thought about the drugs. Yes, the scientists these days are very smart, and they can make some, they call them, what's the name of the drug? Designer drugs that cannot show up on the machines that they have to test the drug. And some people have gotten busted for taking drugs because the machines are now getting smarter, and some people are getting caught, which is good. Because there's no room for cheats in our sport. Track and field, our athletics is a pure sport. Which men can get from point A to point B the fastest. And it shouldn't be helped by injections or tablets or whatever. So I'm embarrassed by it. During our era, there was no such thing. I did hear the word Diana ball by the time I reached Mexico City. But we always thought it was something that Diana ball is a steroid that some throwers would take to get bigger and stronger. But we never thought that it was meant for runners. So we never took it, we never thought about taking it. But by 1972 in the beginning, this is 68, by 1972, I started to hear about runners taking drugs, especially the East German women's team, which dominated all the swimming and the sprints event in the 1972 games in Munich. And I learned that they were taking steroids. They had a state-sponsored steroid taking program, which all came out after the fall of the Iron Curtain. And but there was no drug taking in our day by any runners. And but when you hear about someone getting busted for taking it, it's an embarrassment because I love my sport and I'm a coach in my sport. So you don't need to take it. Some people are more talented than others, but you can make up for that your lack of talent through hard work and smart training. Yes. He can take his speed up, but it's going to drop really fast. But if you can take your speed up to your level and you hold your speed, you're going to be the first one to the finish line. So it's not always the fastest who win the race. It's one who can hold his speed the longest. But there's a spirit that I felt that I had in me that generated speed when I wanted to, and I always say it was mental. I wanted to win. I prepared myself very well physically, and then I did my mental preparation, which was very hard to beat. Yes.
When you talk about mental preparation and the spirit inside of you, can you provide maybe 3 keys that student athletes can focus on, in your opinion, to become a great athlete or to be a successful athlete? Maybe
First, you know,
three keys.
what I found that know your event very well. I studied my event. You know, I went as far back as even the 1800s, how the event evolved, and how I saw that around 1930, the world record in the 400 meters changed by 3 seconds. And I said, what did that guy do different to break the world record by 3 seconds? I found out he had started doing interval training. Before, people just maybe just went out and jogged and stretched, and I don't know what they did, but he started doing interval training where you would run at 200 meters, you rest 200 meters, you rest 2 minutes, run another 200 meters. You know, the training techniques changed, which gave him a greater cardiovascular endurance, and so he broke the world record by 3 seconds. You know, study your event, then figure out how you can be the best. And I've given you some clues. One about, you know, get yourself a good coach, and you got to believe in the coach. But you can also do research to make sure what your coach is giving you is really correct and good. So, and with the computer these days, it's easy to get that information. I get letters and emails all the time and phone calls. How do you train for this? So I got some stuff printed out that I ship off to people, you know. And then your desire to be the best, your desire, in your heart, your personal, you know. Why should she win when you could win? Why should she be the one who's happy after the race and not you? I should tell myself that. God, I mean, if I lose the race, I would be very upset. Because I'm not the one who's jubilant after this competition. He is. You know what? It should have been me. So I'm going to correct my mistake to make sure that I'm going to be the best next time. So it's your desire, your efforts, and learn how to put up forth 100% effort. You know, I'm a coach at the University of South Alabama. I see my athletes, they run a race, and right after the race, they walk in a very straight line, and then they come up and they start talking to their friend. After I ran a race, I couldn't talk for maybe 10 minutes. I was walking in a zigzag. You know, because, you know, I had used up most of the oxygen in my body. I was tired. I had put forth a great effort. Learn how to get all your effort out. And this is my young kids these days, they don't know about effort. You guys, I don't know. And because I coach university students now, they don't know how to get it out. So to me, it's all about desire, your heart, and putting forth a big effort. You have to tell yourself, I'm going to try harder than anybody else in this race. I'm going to try harder than anyone else in this classroom. And it's all about you. It's between your ears. It's not down. It's not in your legs. And I keep telling people, you know, the person who's going to win is the one who wants to win the most. You see these Ethiopians and Kenyans win all these races. It's because they have a great desire to win. It's going to, you know, they got a family they're going to feed from this money they're going to win. They have this dream of buying this farm on this hill in Kenya or in Ethiopia. You know, they dream how they're going to, after I win this race, this is what I'm going to do with the money. And they see it and they visualize it and they go get it. Where Americans, kids, you know, they got their laptop computer and they got their video games. You guys are not hungry enough. I tell my kids this all the time. You guys are not hungry. That's why these Africans clean your clock. Because they are very ambitious. You know, they have a goal. You got to set a high goal and go for it. You know, you have to try harder. Are you an athlete?
I was. I'm a coach now, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're learning what to tell them.
I feel the same way you do in a lot of regards as far as you know, effort. I think, you know, when I was training, actually, I was Akron's first national champion, and out of any sport, male or female. And I can identify when you say being hungry. You know, I wanted nothing more, and as a matter of fact, my junior year, I placed second in the NCAAs. And when I was on that stand, and she's my best friend now, she's a girl from Stanford, and I'm a heptathlete, and when she walked down there, I kissed the podium. And I told myself I'd be back. And that whole year, I never lost one race, one heptathlon, because I wanted to be the best. No matter what, I never let anyone beat me in practice, even with the guys. I trained with the guys. And I think that, you know, that level of that pain threshold you have to go through, you have to just always push yourself and push yourself and push yourself, because you can be surprised. When you think you've gone to the limit, you'd be surprised once you get there how high you can look up. So
you're on the right track there. You have some, you know, but champions are, actually champions are made, not born, you know, but not with the needle, but through your training and how much ambition you have, how hard are you willing to work, and how bad you want to be number one. Another question?
What kind of things did you do to work out in high school to get ready for the court?
Okay, our coach.
Just by telling them, did you have
Did you have to do more than just tell them that they had to get there every day?
Thank you. That my desire to win what is what propels me. I felt
I mean, like, as far as, like, technique or, like, form or, like,
you know, but I'm telling you the most important one is all here. It's here. It's not here. Believe me. Because, you know, I beat guys who are faster than me. I just held my speed longer than he could hold his top speed. See, you can beat someone who's faster than you because let's say the race is over a certain distance. You can Yeah.
Yes, I was wondering, being away from the States for so long, when you came back, what major changes did you notice in the United States and maybe in yourself as well?
Well, one thing that well, you know, when I came back, I started working at, I came back in 1999, I think I told you, and I got a job at the University of Washington in Seattle. I found there were some very talented athletes on the team, and one young man named Joe Hooker. I trained him. He made the 2000 with the team in Sydney. But he didn't. He could have been the Olympic champion, but he wasn't ready to work harder to be the champion. Talented guy, a lot more talent than what I had. I kept telling him that. But you know, I said, Warren, man, I said, look, he can run 100 meters like in 10-1. He can run the 200 meters in like 20-1. He's running 44.7 in the 400. I said, Warren, man, listen to me, I do too. Let's run 43.7, you know? 44.7 is nothing. Run 43.7, you're Olympic champion. He didn't want to work, you know, I found the kids didn't want to work that hard. He didn't want to hurt. Because you know how it is with pain when you train. I found the athletes didn't want to work as hard as my era, like Tommy Smith and John Collins, and not as hard as my children found these guys, not especially the NBA anyway. No, I think the fathers should be the role models for their children, not sports people. Even though there's some great people playing sports, but my children have not chosen any sports figures as role model. But they always talk about this, and maybe it's the sports writers who are these guys. I don't know, but I don't think their children that much are looking to these players as role models. I know, you know. I think there's something that the sports writers like to write about, not something that's reality. Yes.
I appreciated all your comments. I think that one thing that really strikes me is the insight that you had when you were a sixth grader about what you saw in this book and seeing yourself going back to Africa. And there couldn't have been a lot of people that had that same kind of insight as you moved through the '68 Olympic experience. I'd like you to comment on that, but I'd also, if you would, I'd appreciate your thoughts or maybe your thoughts on Coach Winters and how he viewed you as a young black man and the other sprinters at San Jose State at the time and how he treated you. And I'm curious about your perspective on that.
Well, you know, my background spiritually, you know, my mother, she took us to church, you know, Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday night Bible class, Friday night choir practice. So the spirituality in my life was real. Okay, you know, I knew there was a God and I was afraid of God, you know. And I feared him in terms of, I felt I had to do what was right or else I might get zapped, you know. I believed all that stuff, you know, and I felt it. And also I believed that there were, from my experience, that I was in touch, or some ancestor was in touch with me. And I didn't realize who it was until I realized that, hey, I'm from Africa. And so, and then, as I said, I felt like this spirit of my ancestor who came here as a slave was not satisfied until I had personally gone back. And that was something that was very real to me. And because several times in Africa, I should have been, I shouldn't be standing, I should have been dead several times. I don't know how I survived. But something saved me. I'll tell you guys an experience I had. Jeez. Not only did I almost die with different diseases, but you know, I was in the tropics, and I was born in California. My body's not used to this stuff. But I was driving a car one day. I had left Kilife. I was going to Ondo, Akure. Akure is a city in Ondo State next to Oyo State in Nigeria. Isn't it Nigerian in here? So, I was going from Iliefe to Ondo, Okure. And I was doing this road, and it's kind of a windy road because you got to go over a small mountain to get to Okure. And this is about 1976, 77. I see coming towards me 2 504 Peugeot station wagons loaded full of people with stuff on the rack on this narrow road, and one guy was trying to overtake the other guy. I was driving a 304 Peugeot, which is a little smaller car. I said, so this is how I'm going to die. Seriously, I thought it was curtains. So I pulled over to the side of the road and I did like this. I kept waiting for him to hit me. And I kept waiting. I looked behind me, I see these guys swinging down. They're gone. They passed me. They didn't hit me. And I don't know how they missed me. Seriously, there was no way they could have got by. But they got by. To me, that's some magic, or I don't know what they want to call it. But I don't see how I survived that. And another time was when I was in Tanzania. I was in Zanzibar. Zanzibar is a small island next to Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And I was very, very sick. I had, I guess they had said I had contact with what they call black water fever. I got it in Nigeria. I was on the airplane. I went to the toilet to urinate, and my urine it wasn't black, but that's why they call it black water fever, My urine was almost black. I said, geez, what is this? And that makes you sick real quick. I didn't know I was sick until I saw the company. But as it turned out, I think I had some form of, what did I have? I had, no. It was one of those, they call it black water fever, but it is, it's A and B. What is it? It's
Hepatitis.
Hepatitis, yeah. I had one of those hepatitis. I had one of those hepatitis, I think. Most of them not serious because I'm still here. But I thought I was going to die. They put me in a hospital in Zanzibar. And I was so weak, I couldn't get the flies off me. You know how on TV, how you see the flies over the people who are starving on the dead there? That was me. I was in the hospital in Zanzibar. Flies are all over me. And I told you, then from the Nigerian doctor who traveled with the team, the Nigerian team we were going to have competitions in Zanzibar, Nairobi, and Kampala, Uganda. I told him there was blood on the curtain. There was no door in the room I was in. The door was a sheet with blood stains all over it. I told the doctor, I said, take me back to the hotel. I don't want to die there in the hotel. I'm not going to die here. But I was like that for about 5 days, and then I recovered somehow. I don't see how I made it through that, but it was, to me, it was some form of miracle that I recovered from those two close to death experiences. But my spirituality, I think, was strong then and got stronger after those two experiences. And I think that this would help me to go to Africa and to believe that I had an ancestor that was with me most of the time, and interfered for me in particular. Now, the question about Bud Winters. Bud, he was an Irishman who was a very intelligent guy. To me, I always thought he was the first genius I ever met. He would always come up with different gimmicks to how to make us run faster. His thing was speed. I remember one day for track practice, he said, okay, everyone give me all your spikes out of your shoes. Spikes, you've seen spikes, track shoes have a pointing thing. He got all of us, they're round. He got our spikes and made them to a triangle. Where the front part was sharp and the back was flat. He thought that make us run faster. Then one day he'll say, everyone give me your shorts. Then he would get out, he'd give the shorts back to us the next day, and he had poked holes in our shorts so they wouldn't catch any wind. The air would flow through the back of the shorts. I mean, this coach was thinking, you know. But, you know, and he always told me, he said, Lee, he said, the key to relaxation, he said, never run 100% effort. He always told me that. So I won the Olympic Games. I wanted to do 100%, but I won the Olympic Games running about 95% effort. Because he said, you stay relaxed. He said, if you go 100, you tighten up. So always relax. And coming down to the finish, I'm telling myself, I'm thinking technique, high knees, drive your arms, stay relaxed. High knees, drive your arms, stay relaxed. That's what I'm saying to myself the last 80 meters of the race. And Bud Winters, he never got involved in our politics. And I say involved, you know, we were on TV, we were on the radio, we were making trouble. But he never intervened in a way that would offend us. He never gave his opinion on what he thought we should say or what not to do, or what not to say. He was a great guy.
Great.
I think I answered your question.
You did. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So how do you prepare your student athletes to be ready for the classroom too? Because these days we are not being portrayed as scholars, but they look at us as like athletes. So how do you get them ready?
If you listen carefully, everything I said about running can be applied to the classroom. Your effort, how much time you spend on it. See yourself being successful in the exam. See yourself being successful on the term paper. And all of this is going to help you to prepare better. Because you visualizing your success, but you know that there's a way to get to that. There's steps to the success. So everything that you heard me say about running can be applied to the classroom. And this is what I tell my athletes, you know, the same thing. Your results are going to be how much effort you put into it. In running or in the classroom. There's no difference. There's no difference at all. So, I just tell them, the hard work ethic works in the classroom the same way it works in the stadium. Yes.
Going back to that experience at 6 years old, and maybe I misunderstood.
Now, in the 6th grade, I probably was. How old are you in the 6th grade? About
12 years old. And maybe I missed some of what you said, but I have the impression that your entire experience of coaching and teaching has been done at the college or university level.
Yeah.
I want to know if you've ever had a chance to affect another 6th grader the same way you were affected, because I think there's a lot of dreams out there at that age, yet a lot of the coaching, mentoring, helping is being done at a much older or higher level.
Sometimes when I was working in Africa, I would come back to the U.S. for a couple of months, and if I needed some cash, I would go substitute teach at a school district, and I worked with some, and if you guys ever want to substitute teach and want to work every day, tell them you go to a junior high school. The junior high school teachers bail out every Sign up for junior high school, okay, or middle school. Middle school teachers, man, they can't take 5 days in a row. And they call you to substitute all the time. But anyway, so I would always sign up for middle school teachers, and so I'm with this age group that I was in. So what I would do, I would wear a different African dress every day to get them to ask me questions. Because you know, as a substitute, you're really not doing a lot of the work, the curriculum that the student, that the teacher himself had prepared, but mainly it's you to keep their attention that day while that teacher is out. And I wear a different African dress, and they would ask me questions about, well, is there food over there? What do they eat, you know? Because the only thing, as you notice, when they had the drought in Ethiopia, for some reason, Americans with our pea brain think that all of Africa is like that, okay? But it's not, you know, and like in West Africa, there's a lush green forest. And in Central Africa, there's a jungle, thick jungle there. But on television in America, the only thing they show you is these people on the desert starving to death. And so these junior high school kids thought that all of Africa is like what they showed on TV with people starving to death. And the only reason why the Ethiopians were going through that crisis is because it was a drought, it had rain, and so they couldn't plant any crops. But normally they have beautiful farmland over there. And so, and you hear about starvation in Sudan now. Why? Because there's a war. Wherever there's a war in Africa, the people can't plant their crops, they're going to have trouble with food on the table. So I would go to these classrooms and I would try to teach them about Africa, let them know that everyone was starving to death in Africa, there was plenty of food in Africa. You can go to Uganda, and then the Garden of Eden had to be in Uganda. Such a beautiful place. You know, the Lake Victoria, which is the source of the Nile. If you ever go there, you wouldn't believe how beautiful it is. And just food and fruits and the trees and the roots in the ground. I mean, you can't even be hungry there at all. Beautiful place. I have a question in the back.
Yes. What about the 6th graders on the other side of the Atlantic?
Oh,
that's what, yeah.
No, I never worked with them kids. I was always with university students.
Yes, winning or setting a world record seems like a magical experience and story. I was wondering if you could narrate from the blocks to the finish line what was going on in the race with your competitors and just that whole story of setting the record.
Well, you know, I would work myself. Okay, for the Olympic final itself, I didn't want to be there. You know, I'm telling you a little bit about me because I could be somewhere else. But then I was here. I was watching. I was sitting on my shoulder, hanging on. I was watching the race the same way you watched it. But in my heat, you know, when I was really there, when I was there in another way, I did the Olympic experience. I'm running. I started fast, and I built up a big lead. And I said, I'm running Olympic games. I looked up in the stands, you know, because this is and the heats is an early race. It was 4 rounds, and I did the Olympic experience. I said, I'm running Olympic games, and I won my heat like in 45.4. But for the final itself, I had a plan, but I had spent all day doing visualization. When I do that, I'm sort of displaced. When I say displaced, how do I explain this? Remember I told you I don't remember touching the ground because I watched the race. I wasn't there. I watched it. I don't know how. That's about the best I can tell you. But in the race itself, I remember that in the second 100 meters of the race, I was braking because my coach told me don't overrun the first 200. In the Olympic trials, okay, for those of you who don't know track and field, the coach gives you a pace. Okay, in the Olympic trials, I broke the world record. The world record was 44.5, 50 something. And I ran 44.0. I broke the world record by half a second. But I did the first 200 meters, which is the first half of the race, in 21.3 seconds. And I told my coach, he always asked me, how did you feel in different parts of the race? I said, Coach, the last 50 meters, you know, I didn't feel my normal strength. So he felt that I started too fast. So in Mexico City, he told me, he said, Lee, run the first 200 meters in 21.6. You know, Olympic final, you want me to run 21.6? Okay, you know, 'cause I wanted to crank it up. But my coach, this guy was smart. I did 21.4 the first 200 meters. He said that's what he knew I would do, because he said he knew I would overrun it because of the excitement of the Olympic final. So I was, the consciousness that I do remember was that not to go 21.3, but between 21.4 and 21.6 for the first 200 meters. And so I remember that. My strategy from the 200 meters from the finish was to go as hard as I could from 200 meters for the finish. I remember that. But then the last 80 meters, when I felt fatigue, I thought technique, high knees, drive my arms, stay relaxed. That's what I was saying to myself. But I broke the world record. That's the first time I broke the world record and I can remember things. So I knew I could have run faster. But by the fact that it was Olympic final, I think I was a little bit tired because the day before Tommy and John did their protests, and I was being harassed by the press and threats on my life. And it wasn't as smooth as it should have been for me. I think I could have been faster with all the commotion that was going on.
Yes. I want to find out. We see you during the celebration wearing a black beret. It wasn't part of your official code.
No, the black beret was the. Well, let me. Okay, Avery Brundage, who was the International Olympic Committee president, he threatened us. He said, if those boys try something in the games, I will send them home right away. So we decided we were going to protest, mainly because of his threat to us. And we had several meetings, and we could not come to a uniform protest. So we decided you protest by event. If one or more of us got on the victory stand in your event, if you received your medal, then you just do the same thing. So they wanted to keep us at altitude. We was in Salt Lake Tahoe, California. They flew us from Reno to Denver, Colorado. In Denver, Colorado, after our last meeting, keep us in altitude, we went downtown Denver and we bought these black berets at Penny's, I think. And so we had decided that that was going to be our protest even if we got to Mexico City. I don't know, these were the 400-meter runners. Tommy and John, who did the Black Fish protest, they really didn't get along that well anyway, because they were strong rivals, but even though we went to the same school. Tommy Smith had black gloves in his bag because this was our first Olympic Games. So when Avery Brundage came and presented the gold medals for Jim Hines from the U.S. who won the 100 meters, we thought that the IOC president made every presentation to the gold medal. So I told Tommy, I said, we don't want to shake Avery Brundage's hand. Let's get some black gloves and stick them in our trousers. When he shake our hand, when he gives us a medal, we put this glove on and shake his hand with a black glove. So that's how we had black gloves in our bag. And so, this is how we decided to protest in that way. It was by event. So the 200-meter runners did their thing. You notice in the long jumps, Bob Beeman and Ralph Boston, they had rolled their pants leg up and had long black socks on. That was their form of protest. So Tommy and John and the 200, me and my group in the 400, Ralph Boston and Bob Beeman in the 200, everyone did their different little protest. But Tommy and John, they got the one that caught everybody's eye. But our black berets, this was the plan all the way from Denver, from our last meeting. Yes?
Yeah, of all the African athletes that you've worked with who do get scholarships and come over here to compete, do you notice a lot of them want to stay in the States for the rest of their lives, or do they want to return back to their country?
No, some went home. Yeah, that's a good question, because I'm aware of their movements. Some go home, some stay, and some are, like I said, Paul Wadibia, the guy who quote me verbatim in the instruction, is now a professor at the University in Florida. But I know he intends to go home and run for a government office soon. But he's been over here maybe 25 years now. But all the ones that I've brought over, the ones who are still here do intend to go back one day, but I haven't had any told me they're here to stay here permanently. But I would say more than half has gone home already. Yes, in the back.
Sir, I wonder if you can address the disparity in funding. I know, I'm assuming that the USOC spends more money per athlete training than some of the other countries or African countries can afford. And if that creates like an artificial barrier or gap between the athletes.
Our USOC doesn't spend any money to train us, our American athletes. Our American athletes, our USA track and field team, 100% university students. NC2A is training our athletes. And that is a big advantage for the American team, because we have so many universities and we have coaches like myself that are paid by the university, and we train, and through our system is it's a very good system for good results in the Olympic Games, because from the NC2A championships and then to the USA track and field championships, we can field a team that's going to win medals in the Olympic Games, as you saw in Athens. So our advantage, our universities are our advantage that the U.S. system has. In other countries, most of it is government sponsored, and the government cannot spend as much as 1,500 universities can spend in this country to train athletes. Our university system, NCAA system, is tops in the world. Yes.
The sports boycott against South Africa was quite possibly the greatest victory against apartheid before the 1980s. I'm interested in what your relationship and your teammates' relationship with the anti-apartheid sports boycott movement was, particularly surrounding the Mexico '68 demonstrations.
Well, the South Africa issue was part of my education. In 1967, I ran a race in White City Stadium in London. Dennis Brutus, who was an exile from South Africa, and Dennis Broglio, another exile from South Africa, came to the competition, and they invited me to attend a South African resistance meeting in London. And I was 20 years old. I went with them to this meeting. Before the meeting started, they stood up. They said a prayer for the brothers who had fallen in the war this week. And I didn't know there was a war going on in South Africa, but they were fighting. There was a bush war at that time. This is 1967. So this was part of my education about South Africa. I came back and I started to do some research. I read Alan Spayton's Cry the Beloved Country. And I started to find any book I could find about apartheid in South Africa, what's going on in the life there. I became friends with Dennis Brutus, Sam Ramsamy, who is now president of the South African Olympic Committee. And I stayed in touch with these people through the years, and they would ask me to do different things for them, for apartheid, or make sure that, they would hear about there was a group of American coaches going to go to South Africa to do a clinic. And they say, Lee, do you know these coaches who's going to come to South Africa and do our apartheid regime and do this thing? I said, yes, I know some of these guys. And I would contact them and let them know. I said, look, it's not a good idea for you guys to go. I said, these people are, you know what's going on over there? I said, yeah, if you go, you're supporting this regime over there, this apartheid regime. If you go and you support it. They invited me. They would give me $10,000 for 2 days' work if I was to come do a track and field clinic in Johannesburg. $10,000. And this time I didn't have a job. I had come back from Africa for about 6 months, and I was doing my substitute teaching with these junior high school kids. And somebody calls you on the phone and offers you $10,000 for 2 days. I turned it down because I wasn't going to sacrifice all the hard work I had done for $10,000 over all these years and the fighting racism, segregation, and apartheid. So the apartheid question is something that I was from 1967, and and when I was in teaching at the University of EDFA, they had the Soweto uprising. In Nigeria, with all the money it had then, Nigeria took into the Nigerian university all of those students who had to escape from Soweto. Nigeria sent a plane and flew them out of, I think they got to Tanzania, and flew them to Tanzania. The Nigerian government paid them to go to university, and some Zimbabweans and South Africans came to University of Nigeria for free, sponsored by the Nigerian government. And these were some of the students who were in the Soweto uprising, and some of the ones who escaped from Zimbabwe as well, because Zimbabwe wasn't free at the time. Zimbabwe was, what they call Zimbabwe before? Rhodesia. And so it was, so I would say that I played a big part. I didn't get apartheid kicked out, but I was aware of it. I didn't take their bribes. When they bribed me with $10,000, I attended meetings, and I knew the sports people from South Africa who were exiled. If they went back, they would have been put in prison along with Nelson Mandela. So these were my friends leading up to that. And so, but I'm waiting for them to invite me there for a big party. Any other questions? Yes.
Don't you wish you were an athlete today? Because you'll be talking about substitute teaching.
I would have to do that.
And
Michael Johnson.
then coming back here and then having to work for money and for 6 months and things like that. Don't you wish you were an athlete today and earning millions and millions of dollars and shutting up a little bit?
This is a good question he asked, because Michael Johnson, you know who Michael Johnson, the guy who runs for me, he broke my world record. Michael told me that he made $20 million in 2000. And I'm telling you, I could have wore him out if I got a chance. He's a great athlete. Michael's a great athlete, but you know, this person is good because with $20 million, you know, luckily for him, you know, we fought the battles for him, right? The battles have been won, but I'm disappointed that today's athlete they seem to be apolitical. They don't know what's going on. Some of them, my athletes at the university, and they don't know what we went through. Oh, I thought it's always been like this. That's what they were telling me. I said, give me a break. I said, don't you ever want to do this? Don't you ever watch those old movies on TV, on A&E and History Channel? You know. They don't even watch those channels to even learn about their history, unfortunately. But you know your history, okay? You guys, so you don't get repeated, okay? But I don't think it will. But you have to be very careful because the way this country is going, I'm afraid. I really am afraid. It's a great country, and this country is very resourceful. That's one thing about America, and our multi-ethnicity is our strength. Seriously. We have this mixture of so many people. This is what makes America so strong. And then some people in the State Department are trying to keep people out. You know, they're the ones who probably should leave. But, you know, our multicultural, this is the strength of this country. Anyone, you know, used to be anyone could come here and if they work hard, they will be successful. And it should remain that way. They shouldn't try to stop certain people and use 9/11 as the excuse to keep people out. Okay.
I just want to say you're the rich man. You are.
Thank you very much.
You are.
I've really been blessed. I think this is one of the highlights of my life with this brother here. Y'all just don't know. It's like it's real. I have not only had the opportunity to introduce him, but I also have the opportunity to give him a few gifts. Coming from African Studies, Center for International Studies, and the Sports Administration Program, we want to continue to welcome you to Ohio University. As an African from the continent and the United States, we want to welcome you here. We want you back here. And I look forward to coming back to that.
I want to thank all of you very much. I've enjoyed being here, and I've enjoyed talking to you. I've enjoyed answering your questions. I look forward to coming back again. Thank you.